Some parts of Northeast have a different problem. Our borders with our neighbors have to be settled. Arunachal particularly has this issue in relation to China. Some states have a common border with Bangladesh. And directly relatable to the settlement of the border in Bangladesh is that the illegal migration must come to an end. Illegal migration has several impacts. It's an economic burden. It impacts on the demography of the region. It impacts on the culture of the regions, because when demographies change, the characters change. It can also have a lot of security implications, particularly if the migration comes from countries of persons who are not particularly friendly with you. And therefore, the settlement of the border, and just as we have been able to create a fencing in large parts of the Pakistan border, I think this is an area we have to seriously look at. And while negotiating this, the sentiment of the people, and this is not only sentiment of the people of Northeast, the land of Assam is not a land belongs to Assam, it belongs to India. So it's not only because I'm Assamese and some of my land in Karimnagar or somewhere is going, that I must be concerned. Every man in India has to be concerned with this area. And therefore, the government negotiators have to be particularly conscious of India's territorial sovereignty. With China, the problem is a little different. China has settled its boundaries with several neighbors. It's not settling with some neighbors. It has a huge water boundary dispute with Vietnam. So when Atalji went to China in 2003, I had gone with him, and these separate working groups were set up. And one of the working groups' objective was to resolve the boundary issue with China. And that group has met on several occasions. But for some reasons, they have not been very forthcoming in settling the boundary dispute. So every time the Prime Minister or the Army Chief or the Defence Minister visits Arunachal or Tawang in Arunachal in particular, they raise a dispute. So one can assess what their intentions really are. But the more we settle these boundaries, we ensure that there is peace and amity which emerges in those areas. I think the fact that a large number of students from Northeast, first for studying, then for working, are coming to other parts of the country. And it is quite obvious that where there is a greater prospect of economic activity, people will get attracted to those areas. And therefore, we are speaking in Delhi. Delhi fortunately has a very liberal culture in this. People from every state have migrated to Delhi, and Delhi has some of the best inter-community relationship and a relationship with visitors who come there. So we have from states like UP, Rajasthan, the original migrants came from Haryana and UP. The trading communities migrated. Then from Punjab, after partition, the Punjabi refugees migrated. Then from Bihar, UP, from South India, a very large number of people. Then from Northeast. And fortunately, it's such a lovely city that you have everybody being welcomed with open arms. And this is a city which has an ability to attract these people. And it's natural because the maximum amount of governmental resources go into these big metros. And therefore, economic activity is generated in the metro or around the metro. And therefore, any person with some element of initiative who is in search of that economic activity will be attracted to those areas. And I think this helps in more than one reason. It helps because it increases the cosmopolitan character of India. I have now for the last few years stopped practicing law, but when I was practicing, the kind of youngsters as apprentices and trainees and young lawyers who used to work with me, They came from different parts of the country. Some of them came from Northeast also. I got to understand a lot about these areas through my interactions with them. And therefore, this kind of an interaction promotes national unity. It promotes a sense of better understanding. And I think not only in terms of education, and some of you must be studying in Delhi University or Jawaharlal Nehru University or Jamia or any private institutions here, will all realize that these are all institutions which have acquired a multilingual, multi-state, multi-religious character. And therefore, we are able to grow up understanding and knowing each other much better. Finally, I am told that a large number of you who have come here, that's what Sunil tells me, are law students. I think the character of law education in India is now changing. There was a time, particularly when I studied, that those who did not get admission anywhere else used to go and do law. And law was a very difficult exam to fail in. So even if you did very badly, you would still pass a law exam. Over the last few years, particularly last 10 to 15 years, the character has changed. Law has become a course of preference. So law is no longer a last resort. People out of preference are joining law. As the economy is growing, the whole potential of law education is changing. The national law schools set up all over the country have actually raised the bar in the quality of law education. And I can tell you some of our national law schools are as good as the best in the world. So if a student from Bangalore or any of the national law schools came and worked for us as an apprentice, I would find him as good as the one who'd done his masters in any of the best foreign universities, if not better. Delhi, fortunately, also has a national law school now. And it's in its first three years, I think it's done exceedingly well. I happen to be associated with it, and I think it also has the potential of being one of the best legal institutions in the city. Then you have, of course, law in the Delhi University and other universities, also private educational institutions which have law. The potential has grown hugely. The quality of teaching has increased. There is one problem. The best in law don't want to become teachers. So the quality of law teachers has to improve. The earning scales of lawyers has increased so much that if you are exceptionally bright, you'd rather look for a lucrative opportunity there rather than go in for law teaching. The second area is that pursuant to legal education, the quality has changed, the medium has changed. This whole concept of internships helps you in very great practical wisdom, and I would suggest to all of you that forget your compulsory internships. More than that, if you even round the year get opportunity to work with law firms or lawyers, in the evening, even if you go for 2 hours or 3 hours to their offices and try and learn while you are studying law, it's a much greater help to you. In fact, as a part of your Northeast Sampark cell, if people want to train, you must allow this facility, coordinate with Adhivakta Parishad, allow this facility so that people can learn. The real place where you learn is in the courts and the lawyers' offices, not in classrooms. And the whole potential thereafter is gone. People want to avoid litigation. Therefore, instead of hiring lawyers, they want to have an inbuilt legal system within their own corporation and their businesses. So while you are doing business, people must advise you the right thing so that you don't fall on the wrong side of law, and therefore you never have to see the courts or the lawyers. Therefore, the potential for jobs for lawyers or legally trained personnel, even outside the courtroom, and these are becoming very high quality jobs, In fact, in the national law schools, a very large percentage of people now get picked up by private companies and multinationals even from the campuses, because that's where the potential is. Then, of course, when you come and practice law, you have to test your aptitude. Are you cut out for litigation? Are you cut out for non-litigation? There's a big scope in non-litigation. Some of the biggest law firms today are the ones not going into litigation, because with business and character of business having changed, the advisory work, the joint ventures, the investments being planned, these are all areas which law firms are now taking care of. And therefore, people train, and there are lawyers who've never seen the face of court, and they're some of the most successful lawyers. And these are law firms. You'll find very large, big law firms who are working in those areas. And then, of course, some people who can talk well, who can communicate, who want to go to courts and want to become litigation experts. They also have a variety of opportunities. Everybody wants to go to the Supreme Court first, but then that should come after a little bit of training. People are going in for trial criminal law because the age, we are passing through an age where good trial criminal lawyers is a fading breed in India. And therefore, unless some very talented people get into that flow in those areas, they will not find the talent in those areas growing. And therefore, I think always going back home and practicing is a very good option. Training for some time, working for some time in a big area like Delhi, and then keeping your options open as to whether you can find a great career for yourself in this very fast, cruel world here, or go to a more peaceful area after training and start working in the Northeast. These are all options which are available to a person. But I think since some of you are here, I don't think it's the right word. It's not, the word is not a guest. Just as Northeast belongs to me, I said my mind space about Northeast has to increase. I have as much a right to this city as you have. And therefore, you must make the best of this experience. It's a vast world here. You are here at a stage where your personalities are evolving and developing at this age. And for any lawyer, he needs a huge development of his personality. That's more important than the number of marks he gets in a law exam. And I'm sure this will be a great experience. I'm extremely grateful to all of you for being here, and to Sunil and his team for having organized this interaction. I'm sure, as I said, we have a lot to learn from you, and you have a lot to hear from us. Particularly when I said we have a lot to learn from you, is that the Indian political establishment needs to enlarge its mind space on issues of Northeast. It's only then that we'll be able to resolve a large number of these issues. Thank you very much, and very kind of you.